This week, students have begun regrouping in two-digit subtraction. We're going to do a lesson today that's going to show how we model regrouping using our base 10 blocks. Let's take a closer look. So in a lot of their math homework that will be sent home this week, students are asked to use base 10 blocks to show the regrouping process for two-digit numbers. The first thing that you'll see is you'll always see a place value chart where we have tens on one side with longs, and we have two 10 frames in the ones column. We'll also have a problem at the top. This one says subtract 26 from 53. You'll see right away that the number 53 is already shown in base 10 blocks. This is how we work together to complete this activity. The first thing I would have students do is circle the 26 and look at the ones digit. That's where we need to start first. I then ask them, all right, the first thing I have to do is I have to take 6 away from 53. Let's look over at the ones house to see if we have 6. I see here that I only have 3. That means I need to do some regrouping. It used to be called carrying or borrowing. The new term is regrouping. We have to group one 10 into 10 ones. This is how we do it. We're going to knock next door to our neighbor and say, hey, Mr. 10, I'm going to need to regroup one of your 10s to help me do some subtraction. You're going to cross it out. It's going to come all the way down the chimney and into the ones house. When this happens, students are then asked to take 10 cubes and place them on their 10 frame. It doesn't matter whether or not they put the 10 in the first 10 frame first and then down below. That doesn't matter. I do think, however, that it's easiest for students to just fill up that bottom 10 frame as opposed to having to count back and forth. All right, we just regrouped that 110 into 10 ones. And now we need to say, now do I have 6 to give? I sure do. When this happens, I'm going to count 6 ones out and cross them out because I had to give them away. Now I'm going to count how many ones I have left over. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And I'm going to write it in this column here where it says how many ones. Now I have to look over at my tens place in the number 26. I see that that's a 2. That means I also need to give 20 or 2 tens. I'm going to go back over to the tens house and cross off 2 more longs. And now I have to count up how many I have left. I have 2 longs left, or 2 tens. And I know that 2 tens and 7 ones will give me an answer of 27. Let's take a look at another one. In this problem, it says subtract 13 from 41. You'll see, just like before, that the biggest number, the 41, is already in base 10 blocks for us. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to look at and circle this 13 and take a look at the ones digit. That's the number we need to worry about first. 3. Let's go to the ones and see if I have 3 to give. I only have 1. That means I'm going to need to do some more regrouping. I need to knock over at my tens house to my neighbor and tell them, hey, Mr. 10, I'm going to need to use one of your 10s to regroup. It's going to come out of the house and go down the chimney. And when that happens, I need to add 10 cubes to my 10 frame. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Now let's look back up at our problem. It says 3 and the number 13 in the ones house. I now have 3 ones to give, so I'm going to circle 3 and cross them out. Now let's count how many we have left over. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That number is going to go over here in front of the ones. Now let's look back at that 13 and look in the tens place. I see that that's only one 10, so I'm going to cross off that 1 in the tens house. I have 2 10s left over, and 2 10s and 8 1s will give me an answer of 28. In this problem, subtract 28 from 52. 52 is already made for us in this problem. So I'm going to circle the 28 and look at the ones digit first. It's important to stress that to students. You cannot start over in the tens house first. We always start in the ones. I can see here that I only have 2 ones, so I'm going to need to go next door to my neighbor and take 1 10 and regroup it into 10 ones. I'm going to do that again on the bottom 10 frame. I feel like it is easier for students to be able to differentiate when it's when their only task is to fill up one whole 10 frame as opposed to going back and forth between the two. Alright, after I add that, I'm going to have to go back and think, well, now do I have enough to give? I sure do. I'm going to circle 8 and cross them out. And now I'm going to count how many I have left over. I have 4 ones left. Now let's look in the tens digit. I see that that is a 2. That means I need to cross off 2 10s or 20. And I have 2 10s left over. I know that 2 10s and 4 1s will give me an answer of 24. Another one, it says subtract 6 from 43. 43 is already given to us using base 10 blocks. I'm going to circle the 6. Luckily, this is only a 1-digit number. I know that I would start here first. Even if this number was a 16 or a 36, I would always start with the ones first. I only have 3 ones here, so I'm going to need to knock over to my neighbor and ask to take one of their 10s and regroup it into 10 cubes on my 10 frame. I'm going to fill this in at the bottom. Nine and 10. Now I need to say to myself, well, now do I have 6 to give? Yes, I do. I'm going to cross off 6 and exit out. And I see that I have 3 up top, 4, 5, 6, 7 ones left over. I didn't have to take any other numbers away because it was only a single digit. So I can see 1, 2, 3 10s left over, or 3 longs. And that number is 37. The last problem for today, subtract 35 from 67. First thing I'm going to do is look at this ones digit, 5. Do I have 5 to give? Yes, I do. When I have enough to give, please trust the students. They don't always have to regroup. If you have enough to give to begin with, you don't need to worry about it. I'm going to circle 5 and cross it out. How many do I have left over? Well, I have 2. Now let's look in the tens digit. I have 3 that I need to give away, so I will cross off 3 longs. I have 3 longs or 3 10s left over, and that number is 32. That's all the time for today. As always, if you have any questions, especially on their homework this week, it might be challenging. Please make sure you give me a note on their homework checklist so I can help you out. Thanks so much.